Is there anything that you can do for your swimming pool as far as like taking care of it, swimming pool maintenance, where you can, save a couple of dollars by substituting some elbow grease, working a little bit harder around the pool so that you don't have to spend so much? There is a short list of things that I would like to make you aware of. Let's get started with it right away. And the first one on that list relates to pool water temperature. If you have a swimming pool heater, heating swimming pools is extremely expensive because the pool is just in an open air environment and it has a huge surface area with which to evaporate and lose heat. In fact, it loses so much that over 95% of the energy losses in your pool water happen through evaporation at the surface level of the water. Using a pool cover on your swimming pool reduces those evaporative losses by in excess of 95%. That is a 95% chemical efficiency improvement and thermal efficiency improvement to your swimming pool. Doesn't that sound pretty good? The only catch is when you put a blanket on the pool, it's a little restrictive to the pool itself. The pool can't breathe properly. It can't, diffuse chemically treated water properly. The top layer is going to get really warm versus the bottom layer. And so, if you leave the cover on all the time, you'll eventually have a problem. It's not good for the pool to leave the cover on all the time. So here's that elbow grease we were talking about. If you're paying for heated water, put your solar blanket on the pool at night and take it off during the day. That's all you need to do. And if you do that, you won't be creating, superheated water at the top layer. You won't be having solar blankets fail every 1 to 2 years because the sun's beating down on them during the day. They really work best at night when, it's cooler and you're going to have most of your evaporation happening and you're going to be losing all of that heat that you're adding to the swimming pool during the day, whether just through the sunlight or through an external heater that you run. Any way about it, using a solar blanket on your pool every night is a great idea and an easy way to save money. So what's another tip for saving money by doing something that requires a little extra effort? Do you shower right before you go swimming every time you go swimming? In theory, if you were to do that, if you were to take this extra step, whether showering inside or installing some sort of outdoor shower adjacent to your pool, just a quick rinse before you jump in is going to have a host of benefits on the quality of the water chemistry itself and just minimizing on the amount of maintenance you're going to have to do to your pool filtration system. If you think about it for a sec, every time you're getting in the water, you got like maybe some detergent on your swim trunks, just a little bit, right? And you got a little shampoo in your hair, and you were wearing makeup and suntan lotion and some hairspray and some other things like that. Like, people are actually covered in a lot of stuff. And when you jump into a pool, where do you think it all goes? It all goes into the pool. But if you were to take like a quick shower before you jumped in, right before you jumped in, rinse all that stuff off, all of that would not end up in the pool. That's actually a massive amount of like human runoff that is not going to be in your pool. And that's for each and every single person. And each and every time that you reapply your lipstick and your hairspray and your suntan lotion and all this stuff. So a quick rinse before you go swimming will dramatically decrease the amount of chlorine that you need in your pool. This is called the chlorine demand. Like, basically how much crud and crap and garbage ends up in your pool. Now we need chlorine to combat that. If we put in less crud and crap and garbage and human runoff, you need less chlorine. If you're adding less chlorine, then you're doing less subsequent chemical treatments to fix all the things that kind of go out of whack when you add a bunch of chlorine to the pool. So you see there's this downstream payoff as a result of this one extra step, which is just showering or rinsing off directly before you go swimming. Here's an easy one. Low-hanging fruit if you want to work a little harder and save a little bit of money as a result of it. When you see leaves and floating debris in your pool, scoop them out. If you see sunken debris on the floor, spot vacuum that area. And the reason is, as I touched on in the last point here, is chlorine demand. Anytime there's stuff in your pool, it's not supposed to be there. Chlorine's doing its thing, sanitizing and oxidizing and being algicide and all the great stuff that we want chlorine to be as a chemical sanitizer. The problem is that when that debris becomes too much or it's there too long, like that floating debris doesn't float forever. Eventually it's going to saturate with water and eventually it's going to sink down to the bottom of your pool. And now it's just drawing on this chlorine demand. And it's only Tuesday, I don't vacuum the pool until Saturday. Now you're leaving that stuff for the better part of a week, just sapping away on your chlorine levels, potentially leaving a localized stain in the area that it's sitting. So being proactive with your scooping net and your vacuum pole are two great ways where you can save yourself some money on the care of your pool just with a little bit of extra work. Since we're talking about that vacuuming, I just mentioned to you, you're going to vacuum, the spots and not leave that stuff down there. Here's a tip. If you vacuum, where is that waste going? Goes right into your pool filter, of course. Well, if you vacuum every time to your pool filter is going to fill up with debris pretty quickly. Or let's say a lot faster than if you were to never vacuum into the filter, but vacuum to waste instead. Vacuuming to waste is a great idea, especially if you're going to be vacuuming up any kind of heavy debris loads in your pool. Why would you put that stuff into your filter? You're immediately just going to load up the filter, and now, next day you're going to be out there doing filter maintenance, taking it apart and cleaning the grids in your DE or cartridge filter, or backwashing a sand filter, and then having a bunch of extra water that you're going to have to top up in the pool. So you see, there's an advantage to you here to either pump that water to waste through a sand filter waste setting, or install a three-way diverter valve in between your pump and your filter, like you would commonly see with a cartridge filter, for example. They don't have a multi-port valve as part of how that filter functions, so you have to install an external multi-port valve, or in this case, a three-way valve. A three-way diverter valve in between where the pump and the filter connect allows you to pump that water to waste. During the times when you're going to be vacuuming a heavy debris load, change that valve orientation such that we're no longer pumping into the filter. We're now pumping into a waste line, which you can plumb into your home plumbing system as per local plumbing code, or you can install a lay flat backwash hose, which you unroll on your property and pump through when you're vacuuming to waste. So how else can you do a little bit more work to save a little bit of money in the long term? Here's one that I would want you to look into. Look into the use of borates in swimming pools. At 30 to 50 parts per million, borates act as a secondary buffer for total alkalinity and pH movement, and as a secondary benefit, they directly result in lower levels of chlorine being used. Not lower levels as in maintaining them at a lower parts per million, just meaning you use less in general. Like I always encourage people, don't look at chlorine in terms of the parts per million. Look at it as like the annual total. A pool which uses borates versus the exact same pool in the exact same area without borates, the pool with borates is going to experience a lot less fluctuations in the pH and alkalinity levels, but you will also need less chlorine in order to maintain your free chlorine levels at 2 to 5 parts per million. That's just a function of how borates work, and maybe it's not perfect for every situation. If you have dogs and they swim in your pool and they drink a lot of water, that would be a time when maybe you don't want to use these, but for a lot of swimming pools and a lot of swimming pool professionals, we look towards borates as not the first line defense, but something that you can do if you want to go the extra mile here and try to reduce your workload and reduce the amount of money that you're spending on chemicals downstream. This might be a solution for you to look at. Speaking in terms of that, if we can reduce on the amount of, stuff and contaminants and chemical treatments that we need to do the pool, that could be a good thing for some people asking this question. And in which case I would suggest to you that you explore either a germicidal UV light or an AOP system, advanced oxidation potential or advanced oxidation process, which is basically just an oxidizer. So you've got a germicidal UV light or you've got an advanced oxidizing system. In either case, you're going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting here that the chlorine sanitizer in your pool otherwise would be doing. If you have this mechanical device which assists you with that, you can use a lot less chlorine, need a lot less chlorine. On an annual basis, your chlorine amount could go down by 50%. If you're using half as much chlorine as you used to, you probably do a lot less subsequent chemical treatments to things like alkalinity and pH and other things which change as a result of all of the chlorine that you would have been adding to the water. So as you can see, there's a number of different things that you can do as a pool owner to get proactive and get out there and start nickel and diming down your costs of ownership for swimming pool systems, especially like variable speed pool pump schedules. That's one that I've beaten to death on this channel. I've got tons of great videos on that. If you want proof, if you want undeniable proof how they work and how they save money, take a look around on my channel. You'll find a couple of great videos on that. I hope you found this information helpful, and if you did, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can check out my website, swimmingpoolsteve.com.